Hi everyone. So let's go ahead and continue our classes. So we finished the first two methods. The first method that returns the number of available rooms, and then the second method that displays the room of a given floor. Now the next method, it returns the name of the guest of a given room. So we need to search. We need to search the hotel for a specific room and then return the name of the guest in that room if there is anybody in there. Okay, so first one, we're gonna have a variable called string. We're gonna assign it to null because it's possible that there's nobody in there, and then we're gonna use the 2D or nested loop room for every row within the list, and then for every room within the same row. So we're gonna check the room first. So if rm here, if rm that get room number, we need to check that the room number is the same. If get room number is equal to the room number we are looking for, then we're going to return the name. But what about if there is nobody in there? So we have to make sure that there is somebody in there. Otherwise, we're going to get an error. It's called pointer exception or null pointer exception. So that means you are calling a method for an object, or you are calling an object that does not exist. So we need to make sure that there is somebody in there. So we're going to put here if rm is booked is true, then we can return. Then we can put g equal rm that get name or get guest. Okay, and then we're gonna return the variable after outside the loop. Return g. One more time. So we are searching the room number. Once we found it, we have to check, is there anybody in there, by calling the method is booked. Because if we don't, then we're going to have a problem if there is nobody in there. If there is somebody in there, we're not going to have any problem. But if there's nobody in there and you are trying to call the method rm.guest and rm is null, then you can't call a method from an object that is null. So let's call the method, make sure it's working. So I'm going to put system out print line, and then the name of the method is search guest. It accepts the 2D array, and then the room number. So let's start with a room number that is occupied. Let's say 311. 311. So 311 is occupied. We should return the name Kim Hammerly. So if we run the program, oh yeah, we made a mistake here because we are comparing two strings. So we should not use double equal sign. We talked about this. We should use the equals method because it's a string. Now, because it says number, so it was kind of misleading. So I thought it was an integer, but it's not. So you have to be careful. If you are comparing two strings, use the equals method. If you're using numbers like integer, double, then you can use double equal sign. So that's the reason why we have that error. And then we're going to run the program. And then it says null. Okay, 311. Why does it say null? Say check the method here. It says if the room equals the room number. Okay, we have a method here because we are comparing an integer, a room number. So we should make sure that the room number is a string here. So you can compare two strings. So two strings. Okay, so now it should work. Let's see, incompatible type. Let's see, room number 311. So we should put the double quotation here since we changed it to a string. Okay, and then we can run the program. And sure enough, we got Kim Hammerly. Now, what about if we pick something that is not occupied, like 110? It should return null. Sure enough. Okay, so it looks like it is working. Okay, now let's move on to the next one, which is raise the room rate. So we're going to use the same nested loop. So for room are in the lists, and then for every room within the row, so we're going to make sure that the room number, we access the room number. So we're going to put rm get room number. If it is equals to room n, then we're going to change the rates. So as you can see right here, there is a method to change the rates. We have a modifier for that. It's called set rate. So we can use that. So we're going to change it. So we're going to put rm dot set rates. rm dot set rate to new rates. New rates. So that's going to change it to the new rate. Okay. All right. So we don't have to return anything in here. And then build it. Okay. So that's how you change your rates. Okay. So next one is assign room. We're going to assign the room, the first available room for our new guests, if it's available. Otherwise, we are going to return or display statement that says there's no room available. So first one, we need a variable of type Boolean. So let's say called found. So by default, we're going to say it is false. Means by default, we did not find any room available. And then we're going to look for the first available room. So I'm going to put room R within the list for room RM R. So how do you check if the room is available? By calling the method is booked. So I'm going to put if RM is booked is false, that means it's available. Then what do we have to do in this case? If you find it available, we have to do the following. First one, make sure you assign it to the new guests. So we're going to put RM, then set guests to the new one, new guests. That's the first thing. Because before it says null, now we are changing to the name of the new guest. And the second one, we have to change the status. Set booked now from false to true. Now it's occupied now, it's booked. Two things should happen. Now, what about if you keep searching and then you never found any room available? That's where this variable is important. Okay? And then also, yeah. And then also make sure also that found is true. That means we found the room available. So outside the loop, we need to check. If we found the room, that means it's true. Or if it's true, we don't have to do anything. We already did this. Now, what about if it was false? That means we keep searching and we never found. So we never found any room available. So we can put either if found is false, or you can put the exclamation mark. That means it's false. This is when we have to display a statement. So we're gonna put system out print line. There is no room available. There's no room available. So you search. If you find one, we're just looking for one, the first available room. Then you assign it to the guest, to the new guest. Make sure you change the status to true, and then change the value of found to true. That means we found it. Because outside the loop, how do we know if there is no more room available? If that variable found changed to true. If it did not change, then if it was not changed, that means you keep searching and there was not a single room available. Okay, and then the last method, checkouts. So let's say there is a living guest. So we need to look for that guest and then check him out or check her out. So we're going to do the same thing using the nested loop or within lists. And then for every room within the same row, so let's search for the room, the guest. Now, before we show the guest, we have to make sure it is booked. Okay, so if RM is booked first one, and because remember, if we don't do this, then what about if it was null? There was nobody in there. So you cannot call the method in this case. So we have to put if RM is booked and RM is get guest is equals to the one we are looking for, which is leaving guest. So if these two conditions are true, then we're gonna check him out. What does check him out means? So we're gonna set the guest to null. So that means now there is nobody in there because the guest left. And then let's make sure we put the brackets here so we can include more than one statement. And then change, don't forget that you have to change the status to false. That means now that room is not occupied anymore. So you're gonna put is booked false. Okay, so that's how you check him out. Okay, by making sure that there is nobody in there, no, and then the status of the room is not booked. Okay, so as you can see, this is a very good example. It teaches us how to manipulate the 2D array using the object. Now, I forgot to add the waiting list. We didn't use the waiting list, so we need to use it here when we search for the guest. And I'm sorry, when we assign this one right here, when we assign the room, and then we did not find anybody in there. That means we didn't find any room available. It's time to add the name. So we forgot to do this. I mean, you put that statement. Okay, there is no room available, but you have to add his name. So to the waiting list. So we're gonna put waiting list. It's an array list. So you put add. That means you're gonna add his name to the list. So what's his name? New guest, right? New guest, yeah. So new guest should be added in case the room becomes available. Okay, so we added because it was empty, and then we added this. Every time there is a new guest and there is no room available, we add him to the list. Okay, so once the room becomes available, then we can assign that room to the new guest. Okay, so thank you for watching and see you on the next lecture.